let's tie a few things together and have a look realistically about what's going on in this world, what has gone on, and what will come potentially, right? So, a few years ago, everyone was locked into their homes against their will, really. Some people kind of went along with it, going, this is an old story for the grandkids, like, isn't that? So whatever. But given the choice to freely choose, they probably would have continued on about their life as usual, right? So it was against their will, even though people had rationalised it, their coherence or their conformity after it, right? So government locks down all the people, takes away nearly everything from them, introduces pure racket scheme, right? The only way of getting out of this is if you take this vaccine. People took the vaccine, and all of a sudden you see an increase in excess deaths. You see an increase of myocarditis and issues with people's hearts. Notably, the vaccine is said to affect men in particular in terms of heart conditions, pericarditis and myocarditis. In Ireland, you're seeing young fellas between the ages of 18 and 24 dropping dead in the middle of hurling matches and GAA matches and football matches. That's not normal. You're seeing professional athletes who are tested and evaluated by the greatest technology we have in this day, and they're dropping dead on the pitch. When they're tested almost, I don't know how much, but they're surely tested annually. So any pre-existing heart condition would be found. Like, you remember the time of Marc-Vivien Foé where he collapsed and he had to be resuscitated numerous times between the field and the hospital years and years ago. So they started introducing more screenings for prospective heart conditions. So either they missed the evaluation and they missed the signs in all of these heart conditions in all of these athletes across the Western world, or something happened between their last evaluation and them dropping on the pitch. The solid correlation with all of that, of course, is the vaccine, which has been shown now and admitted to cause these heart conditions in men. Okay, so you have a very, very vulnerable population because they're, again, if you want to believe the numbers, they're talking about 90% of Irish people, up to 95% of Irish people took the vaccine. At least one of them, okay? So you have potentially, if you go 90% of the population, 49-51 split, I think, between men and women. So you have about 45% of the population who are now potentially, either they have a condition and it hasn't been exacerbated yet due to other factors, or it's been identified in them and they now have a heart condition. Okay? It is what it is. But then you look at the war in Ukraine, you look at the Trojan horse of Ukrainian refugees, who people kind of went, look, that's terrible, we give them a hand and we bring them over and we look after them for a while because their country's been destroyed, even though it's not. It's only a small fraction of Ukraine that's at war. And anyone that knows the size of Ukraine would just logically ask the question of, why don't you just move over a couple of territories? Like, if Wexford was blowing itself up and you lived in Wexford, you might want to just move to Tipperary. Or Donegal, if you're so scared. Go to the opposite side of the country. The war is being fought on the east coast between central Ukraine and the west coast. Perfectly fine. You can go on and book hotel rooms in it across the country now, right? And you could have for the last few years too. But anyway, that dies down a little bit, and all of a sudden we go from refugees to these IPAS, international protection applicants. People who don't meet the criteria for refugee status automatically. That's why they're not called as such. They are leaving their countries for whatever reason. Countries aren't at war, so it's not that there's a total danger to this population's safety. They're leaving their wife and kids at home, and they're predominantly men, admitted by the government. They're predominantly single men that are coming over here. Young men, between probably the age of 18 and 40, right? Young men, prime of their life kind of stuff. And Irish people are concerned about that. Naturally would, biologically, we're built that way. You know, we're built that way. If you have a pack of wolves living in the woods, and all of a sudden a new pack of wolves gets moved in 200 trees down. Do you think the wolves would just be thinking, sure, we'd be sound to them, like, you know, we'll do the hunting for them for a while. We'll do the hunting for them. We'll go without feeding, but we'll do the hunting for them. Because that's the nice thing to do. No. It's the same with human beings, you know, let's not be silly. Let's come out of the college classrooms now and into the real world, right? So, you have a population, Irish people. I'm using Ireland as an example because it's my home, and you can use your own country, or you can slip in your own country's name and you'll probably meet the same. It'll be relevant here, right? So in the last few years, people who were forced to stay in their homes, and they were told that the only way that this would ever end would be to take this experimental vaccination. They done so in massive numbers. This experimental vaccination has been now shown to cause massive heart failures and stroke, blood clots, and heart conditions like pericarditis and myocarditis, particularly in men. It has other effects on women, which tend to be, from what I've been reading, reproductive organs, the womb, things like that, right? So it affects men and women differently, but it affects people generally the same, like at the same effect levels, right? But just in different organs. So forced to take this vaccine has now been shown to cause heart conditions in men. Men are now put in a position where you have tens of thousands of foreign men being dumped into their communities. In any other stage of history, I'd like someone to explain to me what's so different about today that this is okay and that this is only going to yield good results for Irish people and for the people that came here. Explain to me what is so different about today. Because in any other age of history, conflict. It's the nature of the beast, right? It's the nature of the beast. So now, Irishmen are put in a position where the Gardaí are not defending the communities, they're not defending Irish people, they're actually turning against Irish people. You also have the Irish government who have okayed it for Northern Ireland police officers to come down here and put in on Garda uniform and police Irish people. So not only have you got a de facto foreign police force in potential in these encampments, you also have officially a foreign police force coming down here. And you can see videos of people talking with their Northern Ireland accents, and they are strong Northern Ireland accents. They're not someone that lived there for a couple of years and has the twang, right? They are full on, right? So these people are coming down from a foreign country, technically and officially, the north of Ireland, down to police Irish people. So all assumptions or all roads would lead towards a potential conflict between the one with the guards is already happening, but that could escalate because the Gardaí behaviour is just scandalous, and people have an absolute right to defend themselves and protect themselves and their family. And you also have these people that are being locked into encampments, just massive groups of men. So if there is a conflict, what happens? If you have a heart condition and you're continuously being put into situations where you have to fight for your life, what do you think is going to happen to you? So if we're looking at 45% of the population of Irish men, 45% being all of the Irish men in the country, right? Not 45% of the Irish men. 45% of the Irish population being men, or 49, whatever the case is. But about 45% of men who would have been those who took the vaccine, if we're accepting that it's 90 to 95% who did take the vaccine. So you could have almost half the population running around with potential heart conditions and also being forced to fight for their lives. Is that not the most disgusting series of events you've ever heard in your life? And if your knee-jerk to what I'm saying here is to go away, you lunatic, shut up, you're talking nonsense. I'm not talking nonsense. These are all verifiable things that have happened. The only thing with a question mark over it is the role that these foreign men have in this country and will have or may have going forward. That's the only thing that there's an uncertainty about. The rest of it is all nailed on true. Okay? So even if you want to disregard the last element, you're still looking at an incredibly domineering and stressful environment being created in Ireland by this government, regardless of these men coming in here or not, right? So when you add that to it, naturally you have conflict. Even if these men turn out to be saints and scholars and here to show us a lovely new way of life that we never could have comprehended on our own, the very uncertainty of them being here is going to create tension. It's going to release cortisol in all people, which is a stress hormone, which is going to debilitate people's immune systems and their cells, right? Because it's a catabolic agent that destructs people when when you have long-lasting stress. Your body just starts eroding itself from within, right? That's why people get sick when they're under massive pressure, okay? So that's what you're looking at. So add all that stress onto people who could have had artificially manufactured heart conditions given to them or put into them or caused in them by the vaccine that this government pushed onto people and threatened people with no future freedom unless they took it. Just those things alone, that is the most disgusting series of events you could possibly imagine. Tell me how that is not a genocide. And we can quibble over whether there's whether there's proof of intent of this outcome or not. I think that is irrelevant. Every single one of these politicians, all of these organizations, all these big pharmaceutical industries, all of the media, everything and anyone that was involved in pushing this onto the Irish people, and again, add in your own country if you want. I don't even know if there's words that I have to say to ye. All I hope is that the day comes when ye face the direct consequences and the justice that is warranted for the actions that you've taken over the last few years. And I hope that I have a hand in implementing that justice, because this is disgusting.